We start off with really ripe fruit that's in really good condition. And I think that solves many problems that you might find later on.
Hello, my name is Rhea Windcaller, and I am the producer and cider MC of this weekly podcast, where we speak with makers, cider enthusiasts, and folks within the cider trade from around the world.
Hip, hip, hooray!
Bringing us into episode 460 of Cider Chat was James Forbes of Little Pomona, talking about selecting that perfect fruit for cider making. And that is really what it's all about. It's kind of like this mantra for cider makers, in that everything depends on getting quality fruit to process, which means you pick, you crush, you press to create that perfect glass of cider. And there's a lot of in-between steps. So the fact that he's starting with the perfect fruit is so classic for every cider maker, because so much is involved to getting to that perfectly ripe fruit. I mean, there's timing involved, and if you deal with pears, which we know are persnickety.
I heard that, Rhea.
Yes, Perry Pear, I know you're listening in the background.
Indeed, I am.
May I continue on?
Continue on, please, Rhea.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Quince. Oh, that is Cider Chat Central, like the control room. They kind of watch over me. Yeah. That's Medlars. If you don't know who the Talking Palms are, well, they are my very special friends at Cider Chat Central, and they also help me with the podcast.
We're still hearing you, Rhea.
Yes, Perry, I know. Anyways, if you have pears, which we know are very particular,
Right.
in that they ripen at different times, then it becomes more of a jigsaw puzzle in knowing when to go out to pick and how to do all that, because it gets super complicated. I mean, you can't be out in the orchard just sitting underneath the apple tree every single day.
We can.
Well, yeah, of course, because you're palms and you are out in the orchard every single day. I mean, that's what you do. But cider makers, we human beings...
Beans, beans, the musical fruit. How does that song go, Rhea?
Perry.
Okay, we're moving on. Anyways, what James is saying is that it's a big deal. You have to get that perfect fruit to get that perfect glass. There's just no way around it. And you could kind of maybe make some adjustments, and certainly people do, to create a ready, quick, drinkable cider. But really select ciders such as Little Pomonas, you are all about selecting that time. Really, everything stops when the fruit is ripened, and it's go, go, go. And that conversation with James is our featured presentation this week. We're going to be getting to it shortly. But as always, I have a wee bit of news from out and about in Ciderville. We have two cider events. The first is based in Connecticut, and this is called a Spring Cider Fest. It's going to be taking place at Longview Cider House in Southington, Connecticut. And that is the farm, or I should really say the orchard of the Rogers family, which is multi-generational, and it is an orchard in a state where, I mean, Connecticut's not that big, and actually I was born in Connecticut, not too far from Southington where this is taking place. So I kind of know the area pretty well, and the fact that there is still a massive orchard there is just, it just makes my heart soar. Because I remember those orchards when I was a kid, and the Rogers family is keeping it up. Now, the Connecticut Cider Association is working in conjunction with Longview Cider House. So they are, I guess, kind of like semi-sponsors of the event. There's a number of makers who are going to be in attendance, and the tickets are super affordable. So if you are in Connecticut, or let's say the Berkshires or Western Mass and the Hudson River Valley, it's going to be a really easy hop, skip, and a jump to Southington. It's right off of Interstate 84, so easy on and off kind of situation to go hang and sip cider on the last day of May. The event takes place in the afternoon from 12 to 4. There's going to be a link in the show notes for those tickets. Coming up right smack in the middle of July on the 12th and 13th, in the southern hemisphere on the Apple Isle of Tasmania. Yes, Tasmania is known for the little Tasmanian devils, but also for apples. And they have a huge festival that's been going on now for 11 years. It takes place at the Willie Smith's Apple Shed. And of course, Willie Smith is a cidery. I actually had Sam Reed of Willie Smith back on in season 1 of Cider Chat, and at that time he was the president of Cider Australia. Then in season 2, I had Patrick of Simple Cider, also a Tasmanian-based cidery. So I got to learn a little bit about Tasmania, absolutely fascinating history. And what Patrick did, he sent me some of his cider, which was super delicious, and also a little stuffed Tasmanian devil, and a book about Tasmania. I got way into it, and I hope you do too, because this is an event that you don't want to miss. They have a big, what they call the Willie Burn, and people get super dressed up and into the whole festival scene. So if that is something that you would like, this would be quite nice to attend. It's something that I hope to get to at some future point on my travels also. So once again, there'll be links in the show notes to both of these cider events, the one in Connecticut and in Tasmania, and you'll find that in the show notes for this here episode 460 of Cider Chat.
Walking through the orchards.
Up next is our feature presentation with James Forbes of Little Pomona Cidery. In 2014, James and Susanna Forbes planted their first orchard in Thornbury, which is in the north of the county of Herefordshire. They are brand new to cider making, with James coming in from the wine trade and Susanna from journalism. But together, they dove in, and their first commercial harvest came in 2015. By 2017, Little Pomona ciders were on the market, showing up at restaurant lists and bottle shop shelves across the UK. And before long, also in the US of A. In fact, today, you can order cider online in the US via our friends at Press, Then Press. Link in the show notes. In 2019, they moved into a permanent cidery at Brook House Farm, which is just south of the town of Bromyard. That's spelled Bromyard, Bromyard. All in one building is a dedicated space for the tasting room, and in the back, the production area. And outside, of course, a cider garden. What you'll be hearing in this particular episode is how James is still exploring and innovating, working with quince, champagne method ciders, and pommeau. But we first start off talking about Susanna, who departed way too soon this past September of 2024. In fact, I was on site in the UK and able to attend her funeral, which took place this past October. If you're not in the cider industry, I'll let you know this. Her passing sent a shockwave around the world because she touched so many. So we'll begin there talking about one amazing person, Susanna Forbes, and then we'll get into the cider making and updates with James. So without further ado, let's both grab a glass and join this chat with James Forbes of Little Pomona Cidery, based in Herefordshire in the United Kingdom. It's really good to have you on Cider Chat.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
In person, it's amazing. It's the way I always prefer to do it, and how lovely to have you sitting across from me. It's a little bittersweet because who's not sitting next to us here is Susanna, your beloved wife, who we celebrated her life in October when I was in the UK setting up the upcoming cider tour. As always, we are holding her in our thoughts as we're going forward, and the legacy that she set up with you at Little Pomona is just undeniable. It's just absolutely an amazing life that she led. And I will say, and I'll echo something that I heard so many other people say throughout, that she was one of the most kindest people I ever knew.
She was a super kind lady. She was a truly lovely person, and she was always the sort of person who was putting others ahead of herself, and she was always trying to build up and encourage, advocate and support and all these things for other people. I think she did that all her life, actually, but when we found cider, she really threw herself into that and was really encouraging and supportive to many people, including me. Because like when we started the business, I'd never I mean, I've worked in the wine trade a lot, but I never made wine, and I never made cider apart from like in a really amateur way at home. So it was a kind of weird kind of leap of faith. She thought that we could build this business, zero experience of production businesses. So,
And here you are.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's like it's crazy that she's not here.
Yeah,
So,
it is.
I never thought that. I never expected this. So it's quite emotional being back at CiderCon without her. But
What I do experience in situations like this is that she really feels like she's everywhere. I felt that quite a bit when I was in Herefordshire.
yeah, I should, like, while I'm here, and we have your audience, like when Susanna passed away and the news kind of became known, like I had so many messages from people in England, obviously, but also every corner of the world, and like so many hundreds. And there's no way I could ever respond to them all. But it'd be nice to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their messages, and everyone was read.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of appreciated as well. So thank you, everyone. It was a big support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taking the time for me.
Sorry.
I'm a total crybaby. So.
I'm a bit like that as well.
Yeah. I think what's important now is everybody's holding you too.
Yeah. It's been, I kind of know that. It's really lovely of people.
Good.
And so many people, again, as I've been here, have been coming up to me and saying really nice things and giving me a hug, which is nice.
Good.
It's good.
So important.
Yeah. Susanna would have been, well, she would have been self-effacing, of course, but she would have been, I think she would have been surprised but delighted by it, like the way people, held her in such high regards.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just knowing her, how she was always in the open arms and open smile. Yeah. This is where I feel like she's everywhere. We don't see her in the physical space, but maybe that's my kind of belief system, but I just do feel her spirit, because when you have a role model like that, it doesn't go away, that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a powerful person in that way. Well, let's talk a little bit about where you are now moving forward, because forward we must go, and that's certainly what you would be hoping for.
Yep.
Making cider. When I was last in Herefordshire, when I was attending the Rouse Cider Fest, I stayed at your home, and we had a beautiful evening there, and we visited the cidery. I went with both you and Marco Manfredi from Italy.
That's right.
And at that time, the cidery was empty. And then when I was just recently there, what an amazing setup you had done with you come into the room and there's a tasting room there and your production facility. It just has a feeling of possibilities in there in the way that you have it set up. Very, very thoughtful in the planning. So, well done.
Thank you very much.
Really inviting. I mean, it feels modern. It feels clean in a level that you want around kind of like very specific ciders.
I mean, you think it's clean, but if you weren't looking in the corners.
No.
It's pretty clean. It is pretty modern. Yeah.
Well, you were also hosting a reception there, so I wasn't looking at the corners.
No, it is pretty clean and it is pretty modern, and so it lacks the glamour of like some of the older,
but you
established English.
Yeah, it does and it doesn't though. It really has like a sense of something's happening here, and it really, I mean, your ciders that I had while I was there were fantastic. So let's get into your ciders. What do we have on the plate for 2025?
Well, we have a lot of really interesting things in bottle, and there's kind of a queue of them waiting to be released.
Okay.
So we have a couple of really exciting things, I think. I thought until yesterday that we had the first champagne method quince wine in the world, but I think some guys in Chile are doing it. I wasn't quite sure, but I think they said it was champagne method. So that's interesting. So we may have the second one, but it's really, really beautiful. We made it because we like working with quince, but we were also making it for the Applefest banquet in Hereford earlier this year, so there was a preview of the wine there. So it'll be released probably in the summer. We leave stuff in bottle after we bottle it for quite some time before we release it when it's kind of perfect. So I think in the summer we'll be releasing that. And similarly, one of my absolute favourite apple varieties, and it's one that that you do grow here, which is Egrema russet, but you don't grow much of it here.
Not
I've
much.
seen a few ciders.
Yeah, a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, it's a brilliant apple for making cider, and we use it a lot. And so we've got some new vintages of stuff that we have already done. Ripple waiting in, then we're coming out. But there's also Champagne Method one as well. It's really, really good.
Another champagne, because I remember the riddling racks when I first came to the cidery there, and I just saw the racks and I was like, okay, just wait and see.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And then we have got, in 2023, we experimented a lot with kiwi, which is something new for us because everything we've done beforehand really has been technically dry. Mm-hmm. So we have a few of those to come out. Some of them worked and some of them didn't, basically. So,
okay.
But
happens with Keeve cider.
It does, yeah. So I'm excited about those. And also, last year we started distilling, or having some stuff distilled for us by different distillers. So we've worked with 3 so far.
Okay.
One called Capriolas in Cirencester, which is fairly close to us. And Barney there is an amazing eau de vie producer.
Nice.
One of the best in the world. So he helped us initially with a couple of things. And then we went to Kent with Sebastian at Pleasant Land Distillery, and he distilled maybe 20,000 litres of stuff for us.
My goodness.
And then we've also worked closer to home again with Ludlow Distillery, which is just north of us, maybe 20 miles north of us. And the Sean there has distilled some stuff for us as well. So we have these little components to play with. The main idea behind it is to make pommel more. So the first of those will be released
and just
on Valentine's Day.
We're referring to that style where you're using fresh pressed apple juice and blending it in with a apple brandy.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So and then we aged this one in a chestnut wood barrel, which is a bit different. You wouldn't do that in front, but it's an amazing spirit, amazing Kingston Black apple juice, and this chestnut wood barrel. I think it's the best thing.
Oh my goodness! and that'll be ready this summer when we.
No, it will be ready, but it may be gone. But I might have to say.
May be gone. Well, we'll be seeing.
There's only 100. The first release is only 180 bottles.
Well, I'm not going to let James out of the room until I get him to, hold a bottle.
Yeah, I definitely will for the tour.
All right, good. Yeah, that would be perfect because you folks out there in Ciderville, we're going to be having a cider dinner featuring Little Pomona with James B. Forbes, the one and only on the tour. So really excited about that.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. That's just some of the ciders?
That's just some. I mean, there's more as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, we have the new vintage of Disco Nouveau, which is the thing we do every year. That'll come out on the spring equinox, the 21st of September. And then we have quite a lot of stuff from 2022 to release as well. Different Kingston Blacks, a Pet Nat, Egrema Russet, which is really, really good. There's lots of stuff, so too much actually.
You have been busy. We have been very busy in
so
there.
I think we had some good vintages in a row, so 20, 21, 22 were really good, and we made a lot of cider in those vintages. 23 for us anyway it was a tricky vintage for some, but for us we got really good fruit, so again we made a lot of cider then. So we have all of these things that are kind of coming to fruition, and for me the exciting thing is we've been able to give them the time in the bottle before release. So we haven't been in a hurry to release stuff. So everything's tasting really nice.
When you say time in the bottle, just to give people an idea, how long is that time in the bottle?
For me, it's a year.
A year, at the minimum.
I think it needs a year. I mean, maybe 9 months, but I like to give it quite a lot of time because bottling is a kind of, I don't know, it's quite stressful for the liquids, and they take time to just settle down and relax and then begin to express themselves the way they were expressing themselves before they went into the bottle. So.
You're speaking my language.
Hey, good.
Yeah, you said I believe in that so much. You do a lot of Champagne Method.
Yeah, and there's a guy called Martin Goodwin Sharman who you may have met. Called, very bad word, alert, cider shit on.
Oh, cider shit. Martin was there the night that I stayed at your home. Yeah. Of course,
and he was helping us over harvest one year, and we were disgorging some champagne. I said, "We're never doing this again. It's crazy." And then the next year, we just made loads because it's so good.
And I have a sense that you enjoy doing the Champagne Method.
Yeah. I mean, if it's hard to do, we like to do it. It's basically, yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about your quince? Because I know that you planted quite a bit of quince.
Yeah, there's 80 trees on the farm, 4 different varieties, which are, I have to say, they're not doing very well.
They're not doing very well.
We have a big problem with quince blight.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really. So we've got hardly any fruit off the trees the last couple of years.
Does anybody in that area grow quince?
I mean, there's the odd tree, but not many. The Dragon Orchard, which is about 12 miles from us, they have
some quince.
Yeah, we buy the fruit from them as well. Most years.
Okay, all right. So you're able to
they had a very, last year was terrible. It was a pretty rough harvest.
Hard on the quince.
And hard on the quince. So we got 70 kilos. So
70 kilos.
Nothing, so.
Okay, wow.
So,
That's hard for me to hear, because I know that you really put a lot of work into that.
But I mean, it'll happen again. So.
Yeah, you got to keep on. The life of the orchardist, right? It kind of ebbs and flows, just like the cider. Now, for folks who aren't really aware of your style of cider making, are you working with natural yeast ferments here?
We are. Yeah, apart from the champagne method, where we start wild, but then for the second fermentation in bottle, we add champagne yeast.
Champagne yeast.
Yeah,
and how does that work for you? Because that is kind of a big investment. Oh, you can't see it, but as soon as I said that, he just kind of does nod off to the side, like, "Oh, no big deal." And I know a lot of people are like, "What?" Because this is not a small cider. You're making a lot of product.
100,000 bottles a year. So,
yeah, right.
So you're asking if wild yeast is risky?
Yeah, well, a little bit, and are there tips that you've been able to
we started that way, and I guess the precautions we take are in the fruit selection. So whatever goes into the press. Mm-hmm. So we're really ruthless in what our system is set up to allow us to sort through the fruit really, really well and to clean it. So we start off with the really ripe fruit that's in really good condition, and I think that solves many problems that you might find later on down the process of making, right at the beginning. Then we keep things clean, and it seems to kind of work for us. We get a lot of complexity in the ciders, and great aromatics as well. So we seem to, for me, we get a really true expression of the varietal or the varieties that we're using by doing that.
I remember when I had been there, I had a bottle of your Brut. Mm-hmm. Was that one of your first?
You'll have a Brut Cremant then.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is great.
Lovely. That was fantastic. Yeah. But was that one of your first?
That was the second champagne.
Second champagne.
A very small batch of one.
Yeah. And now you're cranking.
Yeah, I think we've got. I mean, we're doing champagne method cider, Perry, or rosé Perry, and quince one as well. So.
Let's let folks know if they're heading to Herefordshire or they are in other parts of the world where they can find Little Pomona.
So in Herefordshire, there's the great supporters of places like the Cider Museum and the Hereford Beer House in the middle of Hereford. Really nice craft beer bar. Big supporters of cider. So
good. And at the Cider Museum too.
Yeah. They always carry some of our stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and we're basically quite relatively widely distributed around the country, especially in the big cities like London and stuff.
London,
like that. So, Manchester and Glasgow and Edinburgh. Okay. So you can find us, but you have to go to kind of specialist bottle shops, or you'll see us on restaurant lists as well. You can also buy online, direct from us.
Direct from you, and how do you ship out of the country?
We've tried that. It's really difficult.
A little difficult.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I'm thinking about the American listeners here.
Oh, of course, in the States, we're brought in by a company called Ancho in Washington D.C. We've been working with them for several years. Yeah. So it's nice to see the.
And so we could expect that to continue into 2025 . That Ancho.
Sam, if you're listening, I hope so.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We all hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
We all hope so. Just for those of you who didn't get to attend CiderCon, I think that was on Wednesday night, there was some Little Pomona at the bar, and per James found out, this is not per, I'm kind of milking it right now, but it sold out so quickly.
I know,
it flew off the shelf.
It's nuts. But
right.
It's really nice. So,
yeah.
Eleanor Leger was telling me from Edenside that she bought 3 bottles, so it's her fault.
Oh, maybe I'll try to get the key to her room.
Yeah, I think she drank them as well, though.
Oh, jeez.
So when you come over, you'll be tasting them, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, really, really looking forward to returning to Herefordshire to see you at our cider dinner coming up, and also to just know that Little Pomona is keeping on and that you are making fantastic product.
We're doing our best. Yeah, we're doing our best. So yeah, and that's what and Susanna would have wanted us to carry on. So that's kind of what we're doing. So
Very good, very good. Well, thanks for taking the time today, James.
real pleasure. Thanks, Rhea. Bye, everyone.
In the back catalogs at Cider Chat, we have a couple episodes with both James and Susanna, which I highly recommend. I cannot tell you how involved Susanna was in the drinks category. So check out episode 126 titled Little Pomona's Big Ciders. They brought a huge Tannenbaum cider that just floored me. That was back in 2018. I think that was the Baltimore Cider Con. And then Susanna, of course, wrote a book. It's called The Cider and Cider, 100 Craft Ciders to Drink Now. And I will say that book is a great resource and is very relevant today for anyone looking for recommendations for ciders to track down. And then another discussion with specifically James Forbes, who's all about quince, which I love. When I was visiting them back in 2019, I stayed at their home, and they had just planted this magnificent quince orchard, which he was talking about. So he was on a panel discussion with 4 other makers: Dan Rinke of Art and Science, which is based in Oregon, Steve Seelin of South Hill Cider, which is in the Finger Lakes, and Martin Berkeley of Pilton Cider, which is a Somerset maker, and of course James Forbes of Little Pomona. I'm going to have a link to all those episodes to check out. And if you're into history, if you're into cider, and you want to hear some amazing conversations, check out those episodes with both James and Susanna to just get a sense of the legacy that she has left behind and what she was forging forward at that time. Absolutely remarkable. I'd like to thank the following folks for sponsoring a recent cider tour up to the North Country to check out both cideries and nurseries and to talk to enthusiasts. So a big tip of the glass to Frosty Twig and Canton Apples for making my stay possible while there. And also the Inn at Lake Champlain, which is on the west side of Lake Champlain on the southern part of the lake, not too far. In fact, a stone's throw really from Fort Ticonderoga. I headed up to first White River Junction to have a sit-down conversation with Dan, who's from the Czech Republic. He's in the US of A right now with his wife, who was finishing a fellowship at Dartmouth. I guess her specialty is chemistry. Not quite sure what she was doing, because we were all about cider, just sitting alongside the lake and talking about what is happening in the Czech Republic around apples and cider making. And then it was on to 1000 Stone Farm to have a sit-down conversation. And really, actually, we spent a whole lot of time in the production area tasting barrels with the maker there, whose name is Kyle Duda. I had a wonderful time with Kyle, and also meeting Betsy, who is his partner and is the chef at the farm. They're only open a couple days a week, and this is a hot spot for a territory. You have to go on this dirt road to get there. Well, look, you got to just stay tuned for the episode with Kyle to hear all about it. You're going to want to go to 1000 Stone Farm too. I had an absolute blast. From there, I was kind of blending in a little bit of time to make some stops along the way to see what the cider offerings are at different stores, and then made my way from Vermont into New York State. I actually went through Burlington and up to the Grand Isle. There are some islands on Lake Champlain that are between New York and Vermont. And I just wove my way up there because I hadn't been there since, my first honeymoon. We were camping on the island. And so I was really a stone's throw from the Canadian border. And that evening, I actually slept right on the border. The bed that I was on is really smack right on the Canadian border. I was staying on the reservation there. You may know that there's a huge casino up there. And so if you look on the map and you look for Akwesasne, you'll be able to find it. I'll put a link in the show notes because you might find it really interesting. In fact, I've been posting the whole time daily different things that I was doing along the way. So you could see a couple little photos there, and my good friend Colleen, who was hosting me while there. Another little side note was on the reservation, of course, she wanted to show me some orchards. So we went to this spectacular orchard that was in full bloom because I couldn't have picked a better week in May. It was the only real week, full week, that was absolutely stunning. Clear skies, hardly any rain, and orchards in bloom. I mean, talk about the perfect trifecta. On Instagram at Cider Chat Ciderville, I was posting daily reels of my cider tour. So you will be able to see a photo of that orchard there. It'll be kind of obvious because I'm talking about sleeping in both Canada and the U.S. and no passport required, which I thought was kind of fun considering. And you could take a look at it. It's really, really beautiful. From there, I headed out to Potsdam, New York, and I was visiting with both Connor and Alyssa of St. Lawrence Nurseries, which is super historical nursery for cold hardy plants. So we're looking at varieties that can really handle minus temperatures. You're going to hear an upcoming episode with both Connor and Alyssa talking about how that came to be, how they took on St. Lawrence Nurseries and what they're doing and what the future holds. So a lot of good news coming out of there. Then it was on to Canton, which is just down the road from Potsdam, and I met with both Joel of Canton Apples and Dan Gallagher of Frosty Twig. Joel has been building up this cidery there, and the two guys are working together doing a collaboration. So they have the brand Canton Apples, which are kind of like everyday drinking ciders, and then you have the specialty Frosty Twig ciders coming out too. And I had one called Turkey Tree. You're going to hear about that in an upcoming episode. That night, Dan hosted all of us at a fire where we were able to taste cider and also talk about cheese. I have a little recording of that, which I'm going to share now, just to give you a little taste of, well, what it could be like being out on the road as a cider podcaster, and kind of a typical conversation where cider and apple geeks are getting together and just enjoying what's in the glass and on the plate. So first Connor, you also hear Alyssa in the background, and then Lee of Pierpont Cidery. It's a new cidery. I did record with Lee on this tour, stopped at his place, which is a house now that is converted into both a bakery and a cidery. You can also see a reel of that on Instagram too. So we're talking about some of the ciders that Lee kept on pulling out. And boy, he was pulling out a lot of ciders for us to taste. And we were kind of doubling that up with some cheese from Jasper Hill Farm, their Willoughby, and then some provolone that I think Lee brought. And you also hear Dan Gallagher in the background too.
It was 32 below.
It looked okay.
This spring came back.
Yeah, it was putting out growth this spring when I looked at it, but I don't know. It seemed improbable, but it's a cool new.
No, that's cool. I mean, if it's alive, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I was just wishing I had peaches in the ground the previous 2 winters that it didn't go below zero.
Yeah,
but then it would have been great.
How about the peaches that are out in the orchard? The Minnesota peaches or whatever.
They're seedling peaches that they're alive.
I've heard more and more people lately. I haven't confirmed this, but I've heard more and more people credibly say that they have gotten peaches like from trees that they planted that they've cared for here, which is wild because it was almost like a legendary thing.
Thank
you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But that's the future. I mean, all the apples that we couldn't use to grow here too, I feel like maybe we'll grow here, which will be fun.
Yeah.
I guess.
Gonna find out.
Curious, to see if any of those Zone 5 things will do well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is too just like we were talking about earlier, just like it hasn't necessarily, a lot of them haven't necessarily been pushed to the extreme. So even if they're listed as Zone 5, that's just because a lot of people in Zone 5 grow this tree.
Okay, so
who knows?
I mean, looking at some of the Fedco websites too, they have trees that are Zone 5 everywhere else, and they're doing them in Maine.
Yeah.
It gets cold up there because it's Super Chili Farm. You have that name, it better be super chilly because I don't want to be messed with. You said it was going to be cold.
It's lukewarm at best, John.
You don't want to live next to lukewarm farm. That'd be no fun at all.
I got
Provolone and cider.
Yeah, I like provolone on anything. I feel like provolone with sweetness, like provolone on raisin bread, like that red bag, Minute Maid.
Oh,
raisin
interesting.
bread. But I like raisin bread and cheese way more than normal people.
How about the Willoughby? How was that?
It's very good.
Did it go?
creamy.
How did you like it with this?
Good. Golden russets, like everywhere I've had them, you can tell. It's very apparent that golden russet flavor.
Although last time we were at Stone Sprout, so not this past year, but John Bunker was talking about how there's supposedly roughly 4 of them in circulation.
Yes.
4 different golden
Yes.
russets?
They're all called golden russet, but they're different trees.
Interesting.
Which loops us back to the genetic testing thing. I only sent in 3 samples. They all came back no known ancestor, except one that I called Pierpont Peach, which is growing across to the, came back as yellow bellflower, likely grandparent, or likely,
Oh, wow.
Okay.
which is interesting because that's not a variety that I know many people locally
around
have
here.
like, deliberately grown.
Mystery russet.
Mystery russet.
And then this one.
This is a new batch. This is the first I have out of my 2024. So it's a 2024 pet nat. It's still a little wild.
That's the pour-on
Yeah,
bottle?
yeah.
Look at that color. That's a little bit different.
Yeah, that 2024 was a strange, turbulent
weird apple year.
And just for me and cider making, it's been weird, and I don't know. It's gonna be an odd vintage for sure. It was just a weird hot summer, and like the apples came in really strange. It's got some BA for sure too.
Well, I didn't go to that. Feels familiar. It tells me like a lot of love in it. And you could taste that.
Taste the love.
Yeah, I love. This is one that I macerated a specific crab apple in, which is a thing that I've been doing a little bit with batches. So this one had an apple that I call Fairy Tale Red.
Ooh, Fairy Tale Red.
Yeah, which only produced a couple bushels maybe that I ground up and then soaked in this juice, which was a mixed pressing of
So like
of
throw
wild
it on
apples.
top.
Yeah, just to give it a little extra. And I don't know, some apples I just get really attached to, and I want to somehow like showcase them or elevate them, but there's not enough of them to do like a single batch with them. So I'm like, how do I give them sort of like top billing in the blend or something? And one idea that sometimes maybe works is maceration thing, but I don't know if that. I don't know. It's like a little risky too, because you just like
How far in?
Yeah, how long?
You
and
said
like,
this is pretty young, right?
Yeah, this is a 2024
So
cider.
that'll really sit nicely.
It should continue to.
It doesn't
develop.
go with the Willoughby though. I recommend that. You know, as soon as you said you like provolone, I think your ciders are with provolone. It's nice to have them each.
Cheddar too. I think I
Cheddar,
gotta hold it down with
cheddar.
some, just
You
some
can't go
sharp
wrong
cheddar.
with any cider with cheddar.
Yeah,
Except
and
like Cider.
brick cheddar. Yeah, brick cabot.
The 2-pound brick.
2-pound brick.
Seriously sharp.
Yep.
That's our go-to.
I'm torn. I'm kind of an extra sharp guy, and I feel like it's like says something about me, and I'm not sure.
You're a seriously sharp household.
I feel like I was a seriously sharp person, but I feel like, and this sounds just like a really
think
old
you
person thing to
are
say,
a
but I feel
seriously
like
sharp person.
they changed the recipe. The real heads know that the cheddar to beat was macadam.
The Adirondack?
Well, no, just like
Adirondack cheddar?
any of the original macadam before it was acquired by Cabot. Like, no shade to Cabot. I have much respect for Cabot, but at one point it was like our local-ish, but still like very good volume price ratio.
You can
and it
still
had
get
that.
it like 2 for $6 at the IGA.
I don't want to like be bitter, but like it's not the same. It's like it's just like
I gotta go to that IGA.
The IGA is the place to be.
it creeps me out though because they often put those blocks of cheese just like out unrefrigerated on the table when they're on sale, and it feels like why'd you do that? Just leave it in the fridge. Like I understand you're like drawing my attention to it, but it's in a way that makes me
Like,
kind of
does
like
it sit there
I
all
don't
night?
want
How long does it sit there?
No.
With
Yeah.
the pepperoni,
No,
that's a different color than the pepperoni that's in a bag. It's a whole situation.
a little volatile. I feel like right now.
Well,
That's how
when
it
you're growing
goes.
up, you're a little volatile.
Yeah, that's my turkey tree, aka brighter later.
Did I already have that?
I don't think so. We just talked about it.
Oh, okay.
But if you did, I'm sorry.
I like this one though. So Rhea,
Yes.
now that everybody's here, I want to hear about the little road trip you're on. Where you've been, where you're going.
Okay, where I've been
That's
and
just
where I'm
juice.
going.
Don't know where I've been where I'm going.
I kind of forgot what today was.
Sounds like a Bob Dylan song or something.
When you're on a cider tour, every day is Friday. It is so true. When you are on a cider tour, every day does feel like a Friday. From there, I was heading south slowly through the Adirondacks, taking my time, and eventually made my way to the inn at Lake Champlain. Now, this inn is owned by a family that was originally from Ohio, and they transplanted here. They have 4 kids. Lonnie is the mom, and Carl is the father. And what an amazing family. They brought, I think, 8 horses, definitely some other livestock. There's chickens. I remember vividly standing in the front of the house as all of a sudden, swinging down the hill, came 2 ponies at gallop, totally in full glee, enjoying a sunny day. The actual home is a bed and breakfast, thus the name Inn on Lake Champlain, and it overlooks the lake. The future of this inn looks quite bright because Carl, besides being a pediatrician, is also an avid fan of cider and cider making. In fact, not only do they make cider there, they make bread, they also make cheese. And I knew that I had arrived when I saw this big old barn that was situated with all these house jacks holding it up. You knew something was going on there. And of course, that was all Carl, who told me also that in 30 minutes, he could teach me everything I need to know to fix a slate roof. And sign me up, Carl. I am so into that. I don't have a slate roof, but I want to have a slate roof just talking to you. Carl is just an amazing person. I had a lovely time. And they have plans in production for setting up a cidery there. He's, in fact, been collecting a lot of old milk tanks that are stainless steel. They have a cover so you can kind of keep them cool. It's like a spacing in between the cover. They actually reminded me of the tanks that I saw at the Showering cider mill in the UK in Somerset when they brought in all these giant tanks when they were getting mega orders of baby sham. So keep your eye on the inn at Lake Champlain. And if you're in that area, it's a great place to hang out. They have these 4 kids who are the most well-behaved, chill, lotta family around. I really, really dug my stay there, getting to know all of them. And if you like cider, well, you should definitely go there because, you got to talk cider with somebody at night, and Carl is the person to do that with. And of course, Lonnie is lovely too. Once again, check out all the reels I am posting at Cider Chat Ciderville on Instagram and also at the Cider Chat YouTube channel, where you can follow along on my travels out and about in Ciderville. I also have a little update that, yes, folks on the upcoming UK Cider Tour, James Forbes has saved some of that pommeau that he's making for us. And note that he's not actually calling it pommeau because, well, you don't want to mess with international trade agreements. He has a different name for that, and you're going to be learning all about that on the Cider Tour. So with that, I leave you here. This is Rhea Windcaller signing off for now. Looking forward to seeing you in Ciderville.
Bitter sharp, strange apples, juicy ripe. Bop, 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 ba-da-doo-dee-da, bop, 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 ba-da-doo-dee-da. Who wants a tannenbaum?
I want a tannenbaum.
Who wants to pull them down?
I'm gonna pull them down. Hey, 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 apples,
bittersweet, strange apples, hanging high. Got them strange apples. Forget the pie. Strange apples, squeeze them tight. Got them strange apples, strange apples, strange apples. Make them pop. Pop. pop, pop, ba-da-doo-doo-da.
Who wants a tannenbaum?
I want a tannenbaum.
Who wants to pull them down?
I'm gonna pull them down. Hey, 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 apples.
Come and see plenty strange apples for you and me. Strange apples. Strange apples. Strange apples. Make them pop.
Pop, pop, pop,
Ba-da-doo-doo-da. Pop, pop, pop. Ba-da-doo-doo-da. Pop, pop, pop. Ba-da-doo-doo-da. Pop, pop, pop.
pop, 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 pop.